Welcome to this Rugby Bits podcast. It's a preview podcast for Super Saturday, the final round of the Six Nations happening this Saturday, with three teams still having a chance to win the championship. And we're going to talk a bit of URC as well, big North-South derby that has big implications for the South African sides happening. So I am Thala. I'm joined by Shaun today, and we're going to have a very snappy maybe a little bit shorter, at least shorter than last week's or earlier this week's podcast. A podcast talking about all around for and all the drama that happened. And Shaun, I think we're expecting a lot more drama from this weekend too.
Yeah, it's going to be insane. I think the biggest drama that will come out of this weekend will be the first game. Whoever wins that first game will be forced to support England in the last game. So, like between Ireland and Scotland, they're going to have to go from the highs of winning and being in contention to secure a Six Nations title. And then after fines, they have to then go and put their England jerseys on and support England because they need England to beat France. So that's probably the most controversial thing we'll see this weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, I was listening to Dan Cole and Ben Young's talking about the logistics because they won that Six Nations, the 2020, the COVID one, and they only got their trophy on Sunday. So they only did the photos with the trophy on the Sunday because they were one of the earlier games. I think it really sucks when the Six Nations is won by a team not playing the last game because then you have that like weird photo of them like half dressed in like their number ones and taking a photo in some random hotel. I really don't like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, sheesh. To be honest, the way the fixtures work, it's generally goes down to an exciting final game.
Mm,
Normally, like they seem pretty good. I don't know how they predict it, but they seem pretty good at wangling it most of the
yeah.
time.
Well, I mean, to be
But
fair, this was
yeah,
supposed to be sorry, I was gonna say this was supposed to be that Grand Slam match.
yes, yeah. And then listen, I don't, to be honest, I don't think there's whether you like England or not, I don't think there were many rugby fans that would dispute that too much. Whether it was a Grand Slam game or whether it was the actual game for the title, I think everyone would have agreed on
Mm.
that on the form leading into the Six Nations. I will tell you something funny. I A friend of mine randomly popped on one of our groups a message and he said something about Scotland winning the Six Nations, and this was before it kicked off. And I said to him, there's more chance of me winning the Comrades than Scotland winning the Six Nations. And here we are. Looks like I'm going to have to get some road shoes and start doing some crazy shit because,
Yeah. I
yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's many if someone wants to do that, I'm sure there's a lot of videos you can snippets you can take from previous podcasts of us just denigrating Scotland and just having no belief in them. But I think Sean, let's start there. I mean, it's the first game of the week and it sets up everything for the last one. So Ireland are facing Scotland. We know the history by now. Scotland haven't beaten Ireland in 9 years. They last beat them in Ireland in 2010. I think they have only beaten them in like Lansdowne Road / Aviva, like in 2001 or something like that. Like it's a long drought that they're dealing with here. And good news for Scotland. Carl Steyn is playing, Hugh Jones is available, but they still had to make a few changes, especially at lock. So no Cummings, no Gregor Brown. You have Williamson and Gilchrist starting. You have Alex Craig off the bench. And for Ireland, they also have lost their lock in Ryan. They've got McCarthy starting, got Van der Fleer starting, Sheehan's back in, and now they've got Derek Murray coming in. So I believe I think this is his debut, if not his second game for Ireland. Yeah, he did play in November, so it's a second game, the Connacht lock. And yeah, there's a few changes also like Bandiaki coming onto the bench. Look, it kind of feels like that game last week between England and Italy where there's form versus history happening here.
Yeah. So the one thing, and we covered it briefly, I think everyone is too scared to make predictions, and to really like bet their house on anything. But those changes to me, I think, bring the game more or closer to Ireland's favor than to Scotland.
Mm.
But the Scots have shown that they've got a lot of dog, they've got a lot of like fight, and they really like that. We saw it with Glasgow Warriors. They really like that. Oh, so you don't rate us? Well, it's cool. We don't really care. We're going to go out and do our cool stuff anyway. Scotland have got a lot of that. And all the right people are still there. I do think that the changes in the locks are a bit of a problem. I quite like Gilchrist. I think he's going to be handy. I don't know too much about Williamson, so I think it kind of puts him a little bit under pressure there. Losing their locks, the guys got through a lot of work, so it's a going to be a bit of a challenge. And but yeah, all the right names are still there though. Like some of the unsung heroes are not, which like generally be the glue guys, but the right names are still there. So we're in for a cracker.
Yeah, I think ruck is going to be important here, Sean. Like, obviously, both teams like to play ball in hand. Not that they don't kick, but both teams would like to go through the phases. And Scotland had a faultless performance at the ruck. But we know how good Ireland are. Like, Doris, Byrne, Van der Fleer are pretty much probably three of the best disruptors of rucks in the world. And I guess that's where now not having Cummings, not having Brown to just clear off those rucks becomes a big um, tipping point for this game. So yeah, I'm very keen to see how that like how the ruck goes. Rory Dodge also has been in fantastic form in the Six Nations. He might be low-key a sort of a player of the tournament nominee himself. So yeah, I think there's a lot that can happen there in the ruck because I think Ireland knows now from last week if Scotland gets quick ball pretty much on a plate, they can easily score 40, 50 points like we saw last week.
Yeah. In the pack, the pressure point for me was going to be about that breakdown. It was going to be about Ireland have got the perfect players to slow and mess around Scotland's ball because that's where you've got to excuse the I don't know the boring take, but it's got to kill it off its source with Scotland
Mm.
more so than many teams. And having Byrne, Conan, Van der Fleer, and Doris there, it's you kind of look at that and go, wow, those guys really get stuck in. They're in the mix. It is going to be a clear mandate for them too. Furlong there, he loves getting stuck in there. So does Sheehan. Like their pack is perfectly suited for it. McCloskey is great if it's a midfield breakdown or breakdown away from the forwards. He's great to get involved there. Scotland need that quick ball. They need that clean ball to operate at their absolute best. Most sides do, but Scotland, their whole game plan almost hinges on it. Um, if they need to double down, not double down, if they need to then change it up and get really tight for a few phases to allow it to open up a little bit later, we'll see. I have seen that in a couple of their games where they have changed and managed it sort of in play. Um, but Ireland have the best players at the moment to deal with that and cause havoc there. The breakdown, it's a technical term. It's going to be a shit show.
Yeah. Look, I mean, Luke Pearce is refereeing, and I think he allows probably a lot more of a contest in the rack than Gardner did. So, yeah, I think also teams have to just adjust, obviously, to the refs and the expectations there as well. But yeah, that will be sort of the source. But look, Scotland definitely have the advantage attack-wise. Like their backline is just on song. Like obviously, Finn and Hupelo to have so much chemistry together. They're able to just open up any defense, and we know how good Stain and Graham have been. Ireland has kind of had its ups and downs with its attack. Like, Crowley's come in a bit later. McCloskey's been great, I think, individually. And I actually think Ringrose had his best game against Wales. But now, they have Jimmy O'Brien on the wing instead of either Lowe or Tommy O'Brien or Stockdale. So that's another change. So it's like if Ireland can this game is so weird because both teams have had very high highs and very low lows. So you're just like, okay, which combination of that's going to happen, which team's going to turn up, and it obviously will make a big difference. But that backline battle, I mean, the 2 below 2 McCloskey battle alone, I think is worth the admission fee.
Absolutely. The thing about the Irish backline is disjointed and as I call it, to me, it's like I like to call it sticky. Like they're kind of like battling to really be in sync. And it's
Mm,
great to compare the two because everyone has been watching the Scottish backline and they're really just ticking over like clockwork, where Ireland have been very, very sticky. The one thing about Crowley is Crowley loves a lot of touches, a lot of offloads, passes, just putting guys away. So if he's able to get in the mix, if and that's dovetailed with the most important player, Gibson Park, still on fire, then Ireland will go through the paces. For me, the pressure point of this whole back line is Carl Steyn versus Robert Balakoon for me.
mm,
They are two of the form players. Balakoon would be the best performing backline player if it wasn't for Stuart McCloskey. He's definitely the most improved this season. He's so good under the high ball. He's so unassuming. Like he just goes and does his job. He puts in some good defensive work. Carl Stan's in great form. Doesn't die with the ball. Very solid on defense. Both of them good on attack under the high balls. Carl Stan's really good on defense. Balakoon, I can't remember him really making an error, so I'd have to say he'd be good too. So that would be big for me. It's going to be a good one. I think you're right about Ringrose. He's really had a tough 2 years. I almost feel like it's been 2 years that he's
mm.
really sort of been tearing the house down. But probably the best shot against that midfield that's going to be coming at them because of his defensive abilities. However, his weakness recently has been his defense. Like he has been a bit leaky. The thing is everyone is very well aware if he gets it right, he's going to wind you because he will
Mm.
hit you like a brick shit house. So it's gonna it's big. It's gonna be, who blinks first. But the idea of Ringrose not in his best form and then facing Hugh Jones, who is arguably one of the best attacking 13s in the world. Like that man can eye a gap, he can still pick it and hit it, which is crazy in Test rugby, that he
Yeah,
does it so often and so well. Yeah, we're in for a cracker.
yeah. And Sean, surely like a run like Scotland not beating Ireland for almost 10 years has to end someday. So I don't even know. Like, I, I'm trying to think what is different about Scotland. I don't know if there's too much different. They're just hitting their marks a lot more and not sort of being that whole up and down team that they can be even over 80 minutes. And obviously, Ireland are kind of trending a bit downwards. Yeah. So I guess it's one of those I'm only going to believe it when it happens. And that's probably where I'm like, I'll probably sort of support Ireland or not support, but I probably think Ireland's probably going to win more than I think Scotland is. And it being in Dublin, I think also probably makes it if it's a 50-50, it sort of tilts the
Mm.
balance towards Ireland.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you. A bit scared to commit to Scotland because we've been burnt so often. Scottish fans have been burnt so often. We've been led down this path many a time and been disappointed. Also, no side has ever won the Six Nations having lost to Italy. So every Six
Yes.
Nations winner has beaten Italy. So there's that. So there are a couple of things that can happen. Scotland have that I don't care attitude. Scotland very much are in their own world, and that is probably their biggest strength. Their biggest strength isn't I'm going to go prove you wrong. Their biggest strength is we are good enough now, but we just go and do it. Like we're not going to let this noise get in the way. Having said that, Darcy Graham did come out and stoke the fire a little bit. So maybe they're venturing away from their being in their own little space and saying that Ireland are there for the taking. So yeah, it's gonna be fun, but I'm with you. I think if I had to put money on this, and I'm not a betting man, I would say Ireland do win this. It'll if I had to make a prediction, I reckon it'll be competitive for a long period of time. Um, but will Scotland, when they make a mistake, will they get out of it? Like when they make a mistake, will
Mm,
they compound it by giving Ireland another try in 5 minutes, or will they only allow that one try to come through? And then, but I think it'll be really tight, and Ireland win by say between 8 and 12 points.
mm. Yeah, I think, look, this game usually goes that Scotland has like a pretty fast start but doesn't convert. And then they kind of, it just gets more and more difficult. And then Ireland sort of capitalize on that. So I think a fast Scotland start would help, like they had last week, and just being able to sort of play from ahead because I don't think you want to play from behind against Ireland. Like I think they just have so many good operators for that. Interested to see how what happens with kicking. Like Scotland, comparatively to other teams, kick so little. So and but their kicks have been so good. I feel like they're getting the most output for per kick almost because when they
Mm.
do kick, it's good. Stain and Darcy, Graham are chasing it well. They usually win those tap backs. They get some sort of chaos from it. So yeah, I think both teams are going to, be very judicious with their kicking, and then yeah, just being able to build that pressure to score those opportunities. In terms of permutations, essentially, if Ireland wins, they need France to lose. Like they can't win if France wins, and essentially, if Ireland, unless Ireland gets a bonus point win, even a few losing bonus points for France could be enough. Scotland just have to better France's result, so they can almost support France or not support England as much. And of course, if they get a yeah, they get a bonus point win. That puts all the pressure on France to get a bonus point win for themselves. So
And that is the game changer. That's what I
yeah,
wanted to get on a little later. Yeah.
so yeah, I think it actually serves Scotland if they make this a bit of a like a argy-bargy open game. Like make it a 50-40 again, because it doesn't matter what Ireland does. Like, I mean, you're not going to catch France on points difference, unfortunately, but you could make it 5 points and then really put the pressure on France to get 4 tries. And yeah, we've seen France, I think, in these types of games, especially in Paris, like they kind of start locking up a little bit. So you'd rather sort of say to them, you have to score at least 4 tries to win. So yeah, I think those dynamics will also be interested how they play out.
Yeah, you spoke about Scotland and how good their kicking is. So there are two spaces here. One, Scotland's conversion rate in the 22 is the highest I think I've ever seen in their history, especially considering last year and the year before,
Yeah.
their biggest problem was getting over the line from 5 meters out. I mean, they could do 95 meters in their sleep, but it was the other 5 meters that were a problem. The other is, despite the loss against Italy in round one, Ben White had the most retained kicks of that round from any other player. I think it was five.
Yeah.
Like that's what people forget. So their kicking accuracy and being competitive has been huge, and it's flown through the whole tournament. So while they are kicking less, those kicks mean something when they do it, which is quite exciting. It's going to put the Ireland back three on notice, and I think they're going to be under a little bit of pressure. There will be times when they're going to be under big pressure. I think Balakoon's probably the safest out of all three of them by far.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I think what's so frustrating about for Scotland is they only started kicking in the second half in that Italy game, which I still rankles me. And if they just did that in the first half, they could be looking at a grand slam. So yeah, Scotland will give and Scotland will take away. So let's go to Cardiff. So that's the game in the middle. So that's Wales versus Italy. Game that actually has a bit more interest now that Wales are getting into some form. Wales are hosting it. They've been playing well the last two games. There's a chance there, basically. And I think like they have the same 15. They've brought in Blair Murray into the bench, whereas Italy have a few players that they've lost and quite important players. So Simone Ferrari's out. Zambonin, who's been running their line out, is out as well. So they're starting, I think, a little bit, on a bit of a back foot compared to last week. I'm not, yeah, I think Italy should be the favorites. I think Italy should be very disappointed if they don't win, but I think there's something there for Wales to hold on to.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm quite surprised. I thought Riccioni was back in the Italian squad this week, but I see
Yeah,
he's not
but they
playing.
didn't pick him.
Oh, I'm a bit bummed. Maybe he's just not ready. Like just.
Mm,
Yeah, that's a good that's a good build up there, Tyler. Italy would have to be favorites. However, Wales have got so much to look back on in their last two games. Like they were exceptionally disappointed about the loss against Scotland. Like it
mm,
really, like it hurt. That was like a long-term breakup hurt, it looked like. But the loss against Ireland was different. It was a very mature approach to the loss. I know the scoreline was a lot different, but they were kind of like a side that accepted they lost for reasons that they're well aware of and understand was either discussed or trained, and they just didn't execute kind of thing. If you understand, it's not like they were like, oh damn,
yeah,
we didn't know how to deal with that. So yeah, I wouldn't be. Italy would have been the Wales target game, the Six Nations, regardless. And
fair.
like it would be that game that they would have prepared for more than any other game. So it's gonna make for something. There will be something. This could be that game that Wales will be like, okay, guys, we are on our way back. Um, but Italy are gonna have to work for it. And Italy, the same as Scotland, the same as France, we've seen them crumble. We've seen them do silly stuff. They've managed to pull out of it more often than not recently. They've very seldom reel it back in when they do silly stuff. They managed to do that against England. So they've got a good maturity about them in the group as a whole. And same as with Scotland, like all the right big names are there, and some of the glue guys are not. So it could
Mm,
ruffle a few things, but they'll still be competitive. And I think we're in for a cracker. Like we've got three incredible games coming up, and they all
yeah.
really matter for their own reasons. This Six Nations tournament has been one of the best. Like every single game this tournament has had a story, a side story for something that's going on.
Yeah. Look, yeah, I guess the big question in this game is I feel like people maybe under speak or don't really talk about the fact that Italy gets a lot from their defense. Like they are, I think they're second for dominant tackles. France are number one, like by quite a bit, but like they really put a lot of stock into dominant tackles. They have 73 in the tournament. So that's, almost like it's 18 per game, which is ridiculous. And I think the mistake maybe that Ireland and Scotland especially did against Italy is if you keep the ball in hand for multiple phases like you want to, like Italy almost get up and up more as they make a big hit, then they can make another big hit. Like I mean, we've seen this from South Africa. Then they can make a turnover through Zuliani and then sort of play from there. And Wales, I think, are kind of moving into not a 20 phases ball in hand approach, but they're happy to sort of spread the ball, get it to their big ball carriers. We know Reece Corrie has been great, and Dowie Lake and Wainwright. So that's going to be the interesting test as to whether those big ball carriers can sort of get more dominant carries than them getting hit back by a Lamar or Canone, like hitting them backwards and sort of getting that momentum, and then Zuliani steals the ball.
Wales, excuse me, Wales are a high sort of touch team at the moment. It stood out for me as clear as day. They just want to get hands on the ball, get the ball down the line, get it through the phases, let everyone have a touch and kind of get a feel for it. And they're big. And you're right. Italy, it's like their life bar grows. It's like a little bonus every single time. They could be down on the dumps and then they put in a dominant tackle and it moves out of the orange back closer to the green, and then it starts powering up. Like that's their superpower at the moment. And then they give it to the backs. They're almost like it's almost like there are a fully defensive side and a transition from defense to attack side because like
Mm,
so many of their things have come from turnover and they're like, right, it's a free for all. So yeah, there's a good balance going on there. And it'll be quite an interesting contrast to see like who gets up because if Italy are dominant on their defensive side, I'm not sure Wales are able to like, what will Wales change? Because they would need to.
mm,
If their game plan is getting them driven back every time and they're a high touch team, they're going to be looking at something else. If Wales get the upper hand, Italy don't have they don't, you don't do a plan B on defense. You just get more disciplined. So
mm.
it's going to be quite interesting. Like I think if Wales get the upper hand, we will see so much more of the same, and Italy are going to have to tighten up. And if they lose their heads, they'll end up losing the game. But
Yeah.
yeah, sure.
I wonder, yeah, I mean, Wales haven't been great with their kicking. Like, it has been a bit wayward. Thomas Williams is not probably the best kicker at nine. Dan Edwards, yeah, it's probably not as comfortable as well. So if you do get sort of stopped in those first 4 or 5 phases, and Italy sort of get those like consecutive like hits, and then they have to put it up in the air, it feels like Italy's more than comfortable with that being the game plan. And Italy almost I mean, I think that was the big thing about their win against England. They stuck to their guns of being disciplined. So they kicked, I think, the same number of times as England. And we're just happy to be like, cool, you've kicked it to us, we'll kick it back, and we'll keep being consistent and keep waiting for the mistake to be made. So that's now, I think, the problem that Wales kind of runs into to against a team like this is it kind of favored them that both Ireland and Scotland kind of give you the space to go through your phases to build up a head of steam. And then, you have a break from, Eddie James or Reece Carr or someone like that, where this one is like, it is going to try hit you and hit you back a few meters back if possible. Um, Midfield is going to be very interesting. I mean, obviously Briggs and Cello, well, Min and Cello especially has been in good form, but I think Eddie James had a great game, like we talked about on Monday. And then Sean, the I guess it's a big equalizer that Ferrari and Zambonin aren't there because obviously Italy's had a very strong scrum. And Wales have had a pretty decent scrum themselves. So now Wales could probably look at that as a place to target. Like, with you have Nicky Smith coming off the bench, you have Thomas Francis, who's obviously a wily campaigner. Like Fischetti and Hassa are good, but Ferrari's just been so much like has been at another level. So I guess that's something that Wales can also hold on to is say, look, we can get some sort of momentum from set piece. Like it was happening with the Ireland game.
Yeah. Set piece at scrum and line out time, I think Wales will target. Wales, they've got a lot of like high value line out jumpers and defensive jumpers, like guys that really like to get around and get up. So they'll probably target there too. But there's no doubt they're going to target the scrum. It's probably I would like to think that if Italy can kind of get a bit of parity and maybe earn a penalty in the beginning, it'll be pretty balanced. I think if Wales dominate like the first, say, two scrums, I think Italy will be forced into making some decisions based on that, like maybe some early subs or something. That's how I see it happening because the Welsh pack, especially the front row, is pretty settled. Like they're
Mm,
confident, they're on form, they've got a real good set of locks. I'm gonna go out and say that if Wales win a free kick and then a scrum penalty in their first two scrums, that Italy are going to be in for a long day, and then they're going to be putting them under pressure at line out the whole time. For me, Italy, I think defensively, that's where they need to put Wales under pressure. But I'm going to say that probably they need to test Reece Sammet a little bit more. I don't know how. Like they need to either just make sure the ball stays away from him and he doesn't get like a good long run up, or alternatively give him the ball and let him have a run up because it's his like running off people that is relatively dangerous. And then Josh Adams is going to be interesting for me. I know we spoke about him on Monday. But
mm.
Adams has been a little bit so-so. Um, so we'll see how it goes. the guy's got pedigree. There's no doubt he's going to come good eventually. If he comes good against Italy, it's going to be something that Line is going to have to be pretty aware of. They'd
Yeah.
almost have to maybe swap Ioane and Line around at some stage because Ioane's been unbelievable on defense.
Mm. Yeah. Look, Ellis has also been great defensively as well. Like he had that really good game against Louis Bielbarri, just chasing him around essentially. So
Yeah,
he's gonna probably have to do something similar, like going up against Ioane now. Um yeah, Italy's been really good at using the kicking game well and putting like the back under pressure. Like in the last 10 minutes of the England game, they saw Marcus Smith at fullback and they just kicked two bombs on him and he dropped both of them. So Reese's been decent, to be fair, under the high ball, but just forcing him into the wrong decision, like you're saying, I think is the main objective. Like make him run into like a spider web, and then you get the turnover, or he kicks and he makes a mistake, and you get the meters from that. So, yeah, the game management aspect, and I don't think we've talked enough about how good Paulo Galbisi has been at that the Six Nations. Like he's really like matured as a 10 in this tournament. Fusco's back at 9. Um, I don't mind him. He's been really good. Varney's obviously a good operator off the bench. He's back in this game. So yeah, like it's only the loss of those set piece captains almost for Italy that make me doubt it. But I mean, it should be Italy's third win. I almost want to say, I mean, yes, the England win sort of supersedes most things, but I think they won't. It will be seen as somewhat of a disappointment if they can't get this third win.
yeah, agree totally. This like as much as you have targets for a tournament, and you have targets for a game, like you'll never reach your target before the season ends and then just be like, oh, it doesn't matter what goes on, you know? Like
Mm,
that's an Italy of long time ago, you know. They're not too up and down. They're a little bit more consistent. So it's going to be huge, but this would be the most wins they've ever done made in a competition.
yeah,
Yeah, it's huge, and they deserve it. So it'll be fun. The irony is they're just like pre-tournament. They're like, cool, we're going to target these two games, and the Wales game will look after itself. Now all of a sudden, Wales have made a resurgence, and now they're up against a different side altogether.
yeah. Yeah, and I mean they would feel like they could have won against Ireland. Like they really could have been a situation where they were also having a little like call for the tournament now at the end here. So yeah, Wales though on the other hand, I think it's more about performance once again. Like if they
Yes.
can win this, great. I think there is a gap between the two. But yeah, I mean, on the other hand though, Sean, like when's the next chance for them to win? Because next year they'd be hosting England and Ireland. I don't think they're going to win those games next year and then go away to Italy, France, and Scotland. Like, in some ways, it's kind of now or never if they want to win a Six Nations game in the next 2 years.
Jeez. Yeah, that's long-term stuff, eh? I think Wales are like game to game.
Yeah,
Yeah, see
fair enough.
the pressure's real, and now I feel it even more so for them. I hope none of them watch this podcast because they're gonna just be like, "Oh shit,
My bad.
we're never ever gonna win another game now. We have to win this one. This is our World Cup final."
Yeah. But yeah, I think that'll be a really good game. Do not skip that. I think that'll be worth watching. And then we get to the final one, the one that the decider. So regardless what happens in Dublin between Ireland and Scotland, France will have the opportunity to respond. And they all, I think the nice thing is that they know from minute one what they need to do. If Scotland somehow gets a big win and a big thrashing, then they know what points they need to make up, or if it's just bonus points, or if it's a win, whatever the case is. So, starting with the changes for France, like a few injuries and suspensions. So, Geelong and Jegu are out for injury slash suspension. So, it's caused a bit of a reshuffle in the pack with Temu Matiu starting, with Oliver now joining the loose trio. And then the bench has now Brennan and Alradu come onto it. And Barasi starting in place for Deporte. And then, yeah, Sean, maybe they start with the England team. Like Chisholm's at 6. I think that's actually a net good. So it's Chesum, Pepper, and Earl as the loose trio. And then they've kind of gone with the same team and said, guys, you need to fix what you've what you caused last week in Rome, which I actually don't mind. Like if if this is the last game for Borthwick, I don't think it is, but if it is, you may as well kind of, if you feel like this was a team to go for and sort of these are concepts and Freeman at 13, Atkinson at 12 and all that sort of stuff, I think you should sort of fall on your sword. But if there is obviously a future after this game, it would be the worst thing to have Atkinson play that game in Rome and then get dropped for the
Hmm.
next game. So I think you may as well see what these boys are made of.
Naming the same backline, I think, creates the least amount of questions for Borthwick, despite everything that happened and what was said for the initial change and all that. So I was of the opinion that this is just the makeshift side. Clearly, Borthwick isn't. He's gone to everyone and said, "Listen, you guys are going to get another go." You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. If he makes a whole bunch of changes, everyone's gonna be like, "Well, that was kind of waste. How could you have done that?" If he doesn't make changes, which he's gone now, everyone's like, "Okay, so maybe there is a plan. So maybe it's like a double bluff." I quite like the the one of the changes in the loose trio in that Chesham is starting because I think
Yeah.
Ben Earl is desperate for some help in the carries and there's something there. Um, I'm not entirely convinced Pepper as the open side flanker is the right answer in this situation. Had Curry not been injured, I think it would have been Curry and Underhill. I do think that Underhill actually had a pretty decent game on the weekend, barring the card.
Mm.
So he's a little unlucky not to get dropped. So he's a little unlucky to get dropped, I feel. But then Pepper's not a bench player. I think we all have agreed on that from when he came off the bench, whenever he came off the bench. So yeah, it's very interesting. That loose trio looks a little unbalanced. Having said that, I don't quite know how to fix it with the current squad players, with Curry being injured. But what it does do is it bolsters that England pack. Um, I think Genge has been busy and has made a couple of errors. So he's not the kind of guy that just goes through the motion. So he's going to be wanting to make this right. I think George has been good. I think he's lost one line out this whole tournament. Hayes has been really good, actually.
Yeah.
Itoje has been so. Itoje was incredible last week, barring that error. So it'll be good to have him back. Actually, Itoje's CTR numbers are pretty high considering he's paid like a whole
Insane.
bunch less minutes. So he's obviously much higher on the tackle and the ruck side, where Ben Earl is very high on the carry and the tackle side. So that's they're both kind of similar, but Itoje is really good. Alex Coles hasn't really put a foot wrong. You can't really argue with that. He wouldn't have been my choice, but I can't argue with it. Like it was clearly the right one. It's that loose trio that's a little bit weird for me. Interesting. That back line, they deserve another shot because there wasn't anyone that was horrendous.
Yeah.
I
Fair.
think I think Atkinson was actually quite impressive, but very shit good. So he was quite disjointed. He was busy doing a lot of things, like carrying, he did passing, he did kicking, he did a whole bunch of stuff. It just wasn't quite working. Freeman's finding himself at 13 again. Daly's going to get a lot of shit because of those two missed tackles, which I think were his only two tackles he needed to make in the game. So he had a 0%. So that kind of looks a bit dodge. I still think Daly spent a lot of time just running around, putting his finger in a damn wall to stop that leak and doing that.
Yeah.
So there were guys that made individual errors. I think Murley and Spencer were probably the only two players that did not make an error out of that
Mm.
whole back line. So by Borthwick saying, listen, I want everyone to have another go, these guys have 80 minutes-ish together. And now they would have worked through that rustiness and that cohesion, you would think. And then, then they get to deliver a better performance this week. That's the thought process.
Yeah.
Side note, found out today, Seb Atkinson did a 4:08 Bronco, which is
Mm.
faster than Bowden Barrett. And didn't the internet shit itself when Barrett did his Bronco the 1 year?
Yeah,
Now,
I saw
Seb
something that
Atkinson,
said,
4:08.
yeah, I think it's the best Bronco in rugby or something like that. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I
It's
mean, you can see
ridiculous.
this. Yeah, you can see he's an athlete. And you can see like he's a that good mix of I can carry, I can run, I can tackle, I can kick, and I can pass. So, you know, you that's the interesting thing with Borthwick with this like the backline selections is I think he's selecting people on the idea of them more than the actual like output. So like
100%.
Arundel, you're fast. We want you to do fast things. We're not going to sort of look at like what you actually do on the field. And Atkinson and Freeman, like if you drew a center combination just out of the air, you'd sort of draw their descriptions. But sort of the execution, you're like, I'm not sure about that. And look, Shaun, there's so many things because I think they still have issues on attack and just keeping phases. Defense obviously has been a big problem and it hasn't really changed whoever's been on the field for those last like three or so games. What, yeah, maybe a question for you, Shaun. What can England learn from the Scotland game? Is there anything they can
Make,
learn and apply?
yes, make substitutes because France are not going to stop.
Mm,
France are pissed after what happened in Scotland and how they dealt with it. It was embarrassing in at actual game time. Like, so they are going to be relentless. Both of them have gone 6-2, but Borthwick's gone 6-2. Like, you go 6-2 for a reason. Like, you have to make, and please, what scares me the most is that I see Borthwick overcorrecting here and making substitutes when he doesn't have to. That's the kind of thing that I see happening, which freaks me out. Like, Borthwick's going to make like six forward changes after 42 minutes. And
yeah.
then you're going to be like, what the hell have you done? So there's that. Um, what else did they learn from Scotland? I think what they learned from Scotland is there, there's a distinct they're not connected. Whether defensively is probably the easiest place to talk. They're not really connected. I don't think that guys are not buying in. I do feel like the messages are being confused. And maybe
Mm,
with chopping and changing in players, in coaches and everything, I do think that has sort of hampered them. They've been together long enough now that it should be getting better. And the cohesion needs to work on defense is a big one, but with the balance of their loose trio, the balance of making their substitutions at the right time, and just really noticing when someone is on or when he's off.
mm,
Um, it's going to be huge. And the other thing I think is find that game plan that suits you. So I think they need to be kicking a lot more. But when you kick on this French side, if your defense is not up to scratch and you're
mm.
facing an angry Antoine Dupont who's basically sees Ben White's face in every single England player jersey, there's going to be trouble. There's going to be big trouble.
Yeah. I think, yeah, the kicking is definitely one thing they can try to apply. Like, we know how good Roebuck is in the air. Like, Murley was pretty decent. And look,
You'll
France,
impress me.
yeah, I think he was like, and remember, was it last year against Ireland where he looked very shaky? So he's obviously just been a lot more solid now. France, just because of the fact that their back three isn't the tallest back three in the world, I think you can always put some pressure on them. And what Scotland did well was, you can say it's luck, but it's also partly preparation. All the tap backs that France have been doing that have been falling into France's hands, Scotland just put themselves in the middle of that. So a forward would sort of run past and collect, an Atisogbe tap back, or, they'd be able to sort of get in the mix and win the ball back. And they kind of need to go back to what was working for them last. I mean, we've been saying this for a while, but you need the Underhills and the Peppers and the Pollocks to be the main chasers, or like that secondary chaser that doesn't compete for the ball but goes straight for the scrap. And
Ben Earl, that's his game.
yeah, but like it hasn't happened at
Yeah.
all, the Six Nations, which is so weird. Like they've
It's crazy considering if Ben Earl gets a ball and everyone is flat-footed, he's going to gaff
mm,
all your forwards, guaranteed.
yeah.
Like that's the thing that you're just like, ugh.
So I don't know why that isn't falling for them, but I think that's the main way they get into this game. It's that and the scrum, because they definitely have a better scrum than France. France are just, yeah, I think the main thing France has to do for the next, 18 months until the World Cup is get all their tight heads into some camp with, I don't know who, with William Savard, and just work out scrumming, because Aldegheri and Groh have been getting pressure in the scrum. Their reserve props aren't really good. Demba Bamba comes back and he's not renowned for his scrumming. He's obviously renowned for what he does around the park. So Genge and Hayes, that's your way into the game. Win scrum penalties, use that for, use the territory. And then we get in the 22. I think this is probably a game for England. Like if you can get 7 points from rolling balls, great. I would just keep on just piling up on the scoreboard. And especially if England also know what France needs to do. So if France are chasing for a bonus point or like a win, and it's a 9 point lead or a 12 point lead or a 10 point lead that England has, make it difficult for them. Make this uncomfortable and make this for France to something where everyone's anxieties just go up. And we have seen it before in Stade de France, when that anxiety sort of starts hitting and you can just feel it in the crowd and they start whistling against you kick it, your own team kicking, that's something that they can sort of put to their benefit. I'm just the England I knew from last year, I'm more than convinced they could do that. The England I've seen the last 3 weeks, I just can't see them doing that for more than maybe 5 minutes at a time. It's so crazy what the last few weeks have done. But it's kicking, it's the scrum, and it's trying. This needs to be the most stripped down game possible. So don't listen to all these people saying you need to run it more, you need to have a plan away from box kicking. Box kick it more. You need to be
Yeah.
getting 50 kicks up this weekend.
The thing is um England, you can't you can't lose everything that happened in that feeling and that vibe pre-tournament. You can't
Mm.
lose it. Like it's still there. It's not like it was a year ago. It was a month ago, you know? And but the problem is they've changed so many players. So if they had named a predominantly same-ish backline, you could be like, I can see this from England. But now it's different. You expect something new, something different. Um, the pressure that France will be under if England are on top of their game will be immense because the crowd have no problem turning against any one of their own players or any one of the opposition players. Like, what could be better than finishing the Six Nations with the crowd getting involved with stuff that is happening? There's a knock on and they're booing and because it wasn't picked up. That's really where we want. We want that competition because that's going to bring the best out of France or the worst. England are going to be up for it. If England are the underdog here big time, and if they are in with the sniff of this game or spoiling the party for France, it's going to be building up their boosters. So there are enough changes in this French side in enough positions that you could be like,
Yeah.
what happens if they have to turn to someone um, like a Brennan, who is not
Yeah.
bad, but he's good, but you're kind of like he's not Olivon. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's going to be fun. I have a sneaky suspicion, just a little side thing, that at the Bears, this is going to be his game. He's
Yeah.
been defensively massive, but I think Atsasogbe is gonna do something this game.
I'm having the same feeling about DuPont, not because of last week. I just thought, I think the week before against Italy, you were just like, oh, the old DuPont's coming back, and then he has probably like one of his worst games. But you just saw like obviously it takes you some time, especially from a long-term injury, just to get like the pace back and
Yeah.
the confidence. And because against Italy, he was hitting people, he was bumping people off, he was in the rucks winning turnovers, he was kicking amazing, he was running amazing. Like, I think yeah, I think we are probably due a sort of a prime sort of Antoine Dupont type of game.
Ben Spencer is the best person that you would want to have on that field in the Six Nations playing against DuPont who wants to come out of his shell.
Mm,
I think Spencer is good. He's well experienced. He's quite a wily character. Like I think he's gonna cause a little bit of hassles.
yeah. Look, I mean, like you said, Sean, there's a lot of players that are in somewhat unfamiliar positions for France. So Matu's making his debut. Like he's been good for Bordeaux. He's played mostly eight, as I understand it, and from what I've seen. So maybe they'll sort of change around depending on the scrum. Maybe he goes to eight for attacking scrums. He's on the side for defensive. I mean, look, Olivon's played flank enough. Like I'm sure there'll be some interchange there, and he's a good ball carrier. So I'm keen to see how he goes. Brendan, like you've said, I think a very good player. Like in theory, we've seen what he's done, like in the Champions Cup, but he's played maybe two or three test matches. Aradu now becomes like almost like the senior lock. But it's gonna be him and Gillard, and them those two coming on later. Well, Gillard especially, at least helps with sort of making that impact. We've talked about the props and maybe the uncertainty there. Gaetan is not a bad sort of reserve like center. You would imagine Barassi and Moefana are going to be better than they were last week, especially Moefana. Like Moefana just had a game from hell, and he'll be relieved it's not Hupelotu he's marking, but Atkinson and Freeman, who still haven't really met each other. So it's maybe easier to read like defensively. So yeah, I mean, this is the thing for France is we've know like the last few years, like they have a loss, like a game that they really want to win, and they almost go into like a sort of a depression for a few games, and then sort of have to get themselves out of it. So yeah, I think the start's going to be so important for France. Like if they get like an early try or two and it's 12-0, it could be a big score. But if it is
Yeah,
that sort
they're
of
going to
like,
have the
yeah,
crowd behind them. If England score early and they're under pressure and they need to score four tries and win by like 18 points, the
yeah,
crowd's going to get nervous. Like they, yeah, they've got the pressure's on there for real because you
yeah.
want to get your home fans behind you. Like in Italy, the home fans are behind you even if you're 103 nil down. Like it doesn't matter. But the French fans, no, it doesn't work like that.
No, this is Paris, brother. You need to actually come and perform here. Sean, did you see this article from Courtney Laws saying that the problem with England is these like the youngsters, pretty much all these private school kids are too busy with like TikToks and don't really know like real adversity. And obviously, what's crazy is that a lot of these guys that he's talking about, like the TikTokers, are all his old Northampton teammates. So he's
It's
pretty much having a dig at them. It's all, I mean, we know England can overreact when it's a loss, but like it's such a wild thing for someone for the captain of the team that pretty much won what the premiership when he retired 2 years ago, to saying about his former teammates and just saying, you kids know nothing, basically.
Yeah, it's I didn't see that article, and that's quite wild, especially from Courtney Laws, who's he's pretty straight down the line kind of guy, like doesn't
Yeah.
really let that stuff bother him, it seems. But clearly, maybe he was baited into it somehow, or maybe someone
I think he's just,
kind of
maybe they were doing
milked it.
TikToks. They were probably doing TikToks in the Northampton change room. He just got annoyed and he just found his outlet now to be like, you know what? These last 2 years I've been holding it in, but stop this damn
I've
TikToking.
I've been away long enough that I can say this. Yeah, previously for up to now, I could have done it via WhatsApp and just said, "Listen, hey, calm the kids down." Now I'm not on that group anymore, so I'm gonna unleash.
And then I think another big question about this game, Sean, is the kid clash that they are
Yeah,
inevitably just walking into. So France wearing this like awesome light blue jersey, and England still wearing white.
I thought
I
they were
don't
supposed to wear red.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be a rugby tournament without a kid clash. So yeah, it's so funny now. Wales, obviously, and Ireland have changed their colors because of color blindness and everything last week, and this week we're gonna see white and slightly, you washed your blues with a few white piece of clothing, and that's gonna, yeah,
It's going to be so bad that the people that aren't colorblind are still struggling. Like then there's like
yeah.
so then like but it's the most rugby thing ever. Like we'll sing the song over here, but don't worry about it over here, you know?
Yeah, I'm hoping maybe on the field it doesn't look as like light blue. It's maybe a bit more blue, but yeah, this could be a bit of a disaster. But yeah, I mean, they also made this like because PSG also played Chelsea this week, so they're making this like poster about like these three La Crunch matches happening. So yeah, I mean, I know Paris is up for it. Like it's supposed to be a Grand Slam game. I think France was expecting that this would be like almost like them coming for a coronation. But yeah, obviously there's still a lot on the line. Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of like what happened with South Africa against Australia when they got thrashed in Ellis Park. There's some games you almost just have to throw away as quickly as possible. And it took South Africa some time to be fair. But I think it's like you always like saying this, Sean. When you go back on Monday for review, you don't even review the game. You just go, guys, we're not talking about this. You know what you did wrong. We are not going to talk about this. Let's go forward.
Yeah. Also, something completely non-rugby related, but should France lose, it'll definitely come up. France will then stop playing in an alternate color kit ever for the rest of their career because
Yeah.
their Scotland game they were not in their blue,
In white,
and
yeah.
now they change for England if they lose. And oh, you probably find the conversation was like, listen, we haven't cleared this with the powers that be, but we're going to wear a slightly white kit. England, would you mind changing? And England would have just been like, no. Simple. The hate must be
Yeah.
real. The hate's going to be there. We're here to
There's
spoil your party from the beginning to the end.
Yeah. There's a non-zero chance both coaches or the losing coach is fired. Like it seemed like in France media there's a lot of pressure on Galtier. Like I think it's he's been coaching a long time. There's at least some feeling there's a underperformance from this team. I think it's basically any loss is a go for him. So obviously if they lose the second match, that becomes a pressure thing. And obviously, if England comes back with one win out of five, there's a lot of pressure on both legs. So this really could be almost a losers fired type of match as well. I think both are fine, but dot dot dot.
I don't think, no matter the type and the size of the loss, I don't think that they will be fired before uh, the July tests. But things will change dramatically until the end of that. So what might happen is the processes might start ticking over of
Yeah.
what can we do, how can we do it, what is life, what options do we have without Borthwick? Like start putting a few puzzle pieces in place and have a look at it and then be like, okay, cool, you must perform, or regardless of your results in July, we're still going to let you go because we're not happy because they can't like what are they going to do for the rest of the year? Like, you need to have a
Mm,
plan, and you can't have an assistant coach or a stand-in coach because England have like 3,000 standing coaches each week. Um, so I don't think France is going to be too much of a hassle. I think that that job will be relatively easy to fill, but I don't see Galtier being. I think Borthwick's under more pressure
yeah, of course.
because there are so many questions. Um, and also, how weird that the winner of the Six Nations hypothetically could not be France and England. Again,
Mm,
5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, you'd have been like, it's either this team or this team that's winning. The other
yeah.
guys are not in with the shot. And here we are, realistically, or England are not winning it, but France could not win it. And they were in
Yeah.
the best position to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot of disappointment that they couldn't get the job done in Scotland. And like, yeah. But look, with France, Ireland, and England, they're at that stage now of how good they are. Obviously, a great tournament is a Grand Slam. a pass mark is pretty much 4 wins. And then if it's three or less, then there's a lot of questions that you have to ask. And, Ireland could get only 3 wins if they lose to Scotland. And now you're like, well, yes, the teams you beat are Italy, who you should always beat, Wales, who are really weak, and clearly England are terrible. So you kind of can also be a bit suspicious of them. If France lose, then you've lost the 2 games that mattered the most. And then obviously England are below the 3 win threshold already. And it's even more pressure that essentially only beat a Wales team that was playing like a under 12
Before they
team.
found themselves.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, I think there is some reason to have pressure for, all three of those teams. Like the only person that's more than secure, or two people, is Quesada and Gregor Townsend. I mean, Quesada also could maybe get into some pressure if they lose to Wales, but Gregor's the only one that's smiling now. Like this is the first time Scotland has been in the hunt, even in this stage, for how many years? So, like, but it's so funny because I don't think this. I mean, we'll talk about it if and when a result happens, but like we know you can beat England, we know you can beat Ireland. I mean, France, it's the Ireland thing that's been like this big cloud, and you're going to face them in the World Cup, and you probably have to win that game. I mean, you face France if you lose, which I guess is not the worst thing for Scotland, but you'd prefer not facing France. You prefer facing Tonga or whatever. So, can you actually sort of make a plan here? Whereas, yeah, so there's again, like you said, many, 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 many narratives. But yeah, ultimately, Sean, I think France does it relatively comfortably. Like there'll be a shaky part, there'll be a few whistles, maybe at a Dupont or Ramos kick, but they win by 20 bonus point. They would lift the trophy
I can
because
see that
England's just
happening.
so bad.
Yes, so I can see that happening, and I'm just like, I'm, I'm thinking about that realistically happening. And Saturday night, like, I'm thinking purely from Steve Borthwick's point of view. If they take
Mm,
20 and they don't get points out of this game, like log points, not that they matter, but they don't get something, England have to take something out of this game. It can
mm,
be a moral victory. It can be 4 tries. It can be a better defense. They've got to take something out of this game. It's not going to be
yeah,
I don't mean like a win or a draw. Like if they lose by 20 points and they just completely crumble, I might have to eat my words and say Borthwick goes before July.
yeah. I just don't see where they get the 4 tries or like it's the game's only well, okay. I think they can keep a game close. Like we said, if they play like to the potential that we know, there is definitely a world they can make this at least tight into the last 20 minutes, and then France maybe wins by a try or 10 points. I don't see it being like if it's like a 50-28. I don't see that happening. Like England's attack has just not been good enough. Like it won't be, I can't see them getting, if they get more than 20, 25 points, I'd be very, very, very surprised. So I don't see what the options are. Like England knows they need to get it to be a game where France doesn't get more than 25 points and they get somewhere around 25 and maybe they win, maybe they lose by a try or something like that. Like they just haven't been really that good in attack. And obviously they've changed their backline 20 times and their defense has been really, really shocking. So like all things considered, France lost to a team that probably has the best ball in hand attack in the world, essentially, or at least is up there. And they played at their absolute highest peak. There's no way England can do that, unfortunately. There's the things that Scotland did to put France under pressure. Some of the things England can do, like we talked about, the kicking, maybe the set piece, but the quick ruck ball and the multiple phases and getting over the advantage line and making France concede stupid penalties, that's not happening. In fact, it's more likely that England are the one conceding crazy amount of penalties. They've been the worst disciplined team. They have 7 yellow cards in 4 games. Like it's more likely that is sort of the crumbling down. But yeah, again, if England can do one of those Eddie Jones, when Eddie Jones was coach, like those first 20 minutes where he scores like 2, 3 tries and there's a lead and you can kind of like sit at the seat of your chair for the rest of the time, that's probably their way into making this game tight. But yeah, Sean, I mean, yes, it wasn't too long ago they were the great team, but it's also been 3 weeks in a row of them being not just losing, but just being actively bad.
Yeah. England, can they build themselves up? Like, can they, as a unit, as a squad, and including management and everyone, build themselves up enough for this game?
Mm,
Because England could very easily just be like, we're going to just do what we need to do as individuals on the field, do what we need to do, but not like galvanize together to put a performance in because we've got nothing to play for but pride. Like there's that. So that's the thing. If England, if their pack pulls together, that pack is there to tackle. That pack is there. Like if Genge is in the mood to carry, okay, Genge, Pepper, Earl, Itoje are going to be on fire. George adds his little bits. He's very good around the rucks. Like if there's that,
mm,
Spencer's there directing things. England have got it. It's when the bench comes on because I'm not. I look at that England front row replacements and I'm like, it's a bit weird. But then you look at the French one and you're like, okay, cool. They're both equally as unimpressive, is maybe the best, or not the nicest way to put it, but the way that it came out. It's about those other guys after that on the bench. England
mm,
might have it with that, but it's going to be who blinks first. I don't know. I see. I don't see England winning. Please excuse me. I don't see England winning. I think the pack can come together, and I'd like to see the backs be more cohesive. But in two games, can you get the pack to work nicely, the backs to work nicely, and then the backs and the pack working together? Because in
mm,
this day and age, you need that all to happen. And with all those changes that we've seen and the confusion and all that, like there's a plan there. Like I would like to see Daly be a little bit more comfortable in the back line because the back line are doing well. So Daly can actually do his second playmaker role and really insert himself into that game. Or maybe play at 13, which I'd really like to see, but I'll stop my agendering right now. I don't see England winning. I do see England causing chaos, and it's how France react to that that will influence how the game finishes.
yeah. Okay, well, that is a lot to look forward to. Very quickly, just finally finishing with the URC. So, three big catch-up games. So, games that were postponed or rescheduled for various reasons, and three games with a lot of consequence, I think, for this race for eight. So, on Friday night, we have Connacht hosting Scarlets. Scarlets, they're not really in the playoff picture, but Connacht, if they win, they put themselves a point at least behind the top eight. And I mean, Connacht feels like constantly like a point behind the top eight, but like they'd at least be sort of in that hunt. Edinburgh Ulster is a big game. Ulster are close enough to that top four. Like a win for them puts them, I think, level with Leinster, and they'll be in a good position to try and get into the top two, top four. And Edinburgh are also trying to sort of keep into contact with, Bulls and the Lions in that top eight. So again, they win, they'd be a point or two behind. And then, of course, from the South African context, it's Bulls versus Stormers. And Stormers have three losses in a row. Bulls have won four in a row. Stormers are trying to still keep some contact with Leinster and Glasgow at the top and try to host home playoff games. And the Bulls, they could at least put themselves into a bit more of a secure place instead of now looking over their shoulder the whole time. Like these are massive games. And the nice thing, I think, for at least the teams, the European teams, they have a lot of their internationals that are back, the ones that are not being used this weekend. So I think you'll see Ezra Truku and a Prendergast, like those sort of players playing. For, I mean, for Bull Stormers, I'm not sure we are recording without seeing the teams. I think it'll be almost full guns blazing because obviously this is now from now until the end of the season. The main focus is domestic rugby. So yeah, this is a game of Sean. I think with the SA Derby is a game of massive consequence.
Huge. I still get irritated when we talk about how the Stormers are now trying to stay in touch with the top teams. Like
They were the top team.
they were it. They were England. They've just England. They've pulled England.
Yeah.
The Stormers are the England of URC. I think we just need to just all accept that and move on. It burns me. It burns me. The Bulls are the Scotland. Maybe not so good, but nearly. Um, so yeah, it's huge. This part of this time of the year is so interesting, especially for the South Africans, because we're so used to Super Rugby. You go 12 weeks of pool play, you go full strength every game all the way, go, go, go. Then you play your knockouts. Now we've had to learn to manage things slightly different, but now the Stormers have put themselves in a position, the Bulls also, and everyone actually in the South African teams and put yourself in a position where you've got to make that call. Like, are the Sharks going for the Challenge Cup or are they going
Mm.
to push for the URC? Like, how are they going to qualify for the Champions Cup next year? Because that's what the discussion that needs to happen. Like, finish in the top eight, make the knockouts, qualify for the Champions Cup or win the Challenge Cup. Um, and it goes for everyone now. Like, the Stormers are having that conversation about like this could extend their tournament by two more games and possibly win a title if they win it and then get up and then have some home knockouts and push it from there. The Bulls are full on just like got to repay faith in the coach and we back in the groove now. We find ourselves like let's show everyone that they were completely wrong. It's huge and it's going to be a proper derby. And I agree with you. They're going to go as full strength as they possibly can. There's not going to be the Stormers under XX XVVV 111, whatever the new under 23 name is.
Yeah, I expect that. I mean, the game in Cape Town was just this, like it felt like almost, well, it's always personal, but it felt really personal, all the big hits that were happening and the scrums and everything. If I guess this is what happens in Springbok rugby practices. And the Bulls have kind of just, I think since that game, because they lost, that was their last win. And the Bulls since have like almost like really lent into their attack. I think their last two games, they've scored over 40 points in each of them. And we know the Bulls have had this thing in Loftus, especially where they are happy to run up the score against you. And it's going to be a hot day. It's going to be a dry day. I think last time I checked the weather, I, yeah, like I'm almost worried. I'm worried for both teams if like the Bulls are going to let loose. Like I kind of feel like that lets the Stormers in because nothing that Sasha and Gelant and Willems would like more than, playing, in the high felt, passing it around, playing that open rugby. But it feels like both teams could be led to be doing a few stupid things as well. So yeah, it's interesting. I'm not even sure what kind of game we're going to get here, like a sort of a big physical tight game or like a big high felt special when it's like 45 to 42.
Just don't forget the South Africans are the Australian derbies of the URC.
So we're getting 6 points to three final score. Yeah. But I think, yeah, I mean, Stormers basically, if you lose, you're now part of this rat race for top eight. You kind of sucked in with the Lions and the Bulls and all the other chasing teams. And yeah, I mean, a win for them could actually set them up because all four South African teams have pretty much majority of their games in South Africa. They only have two, I think, games overseas remaining. So you want to be in as best of a position as possible to try to secure the top six or top eight spot. I think it's very feasible that the Stormers find themselves and just sort of wake up from this sort of bad dream that they've been having. That maybe having 2 weeks off gets maybe Sasha like more in a right mind frame of being able to manage a game and their forwards can sort of come back with a bit more bite and they get the balance right. Like this, I think would be a game where like I love Daimani. I think obviously he'll be a very important player for the rest of the thing, but I think a Ruan Ackerman would be a better option off the bench, for example. And just
I
having
saw
that
him in a
like,
neck brace.
oh,
Saw
never
him in a neck
mind.
brace. I think he's out.
Okay, so then that's not happening. But yeah, but like I
Ian
think
Farie's back at training though.
so someone like I mean, shame. I don't know if throwing him straight into a SA derby is the best way to manage almost
Yes, a
40-year-old man.
long-term injury return. There is a wall running to it 20 times. That's your fitness test.
Meet Aurich Low. But yeah, so it's that, yeah, like I think this is a game for both teams to really sort of state their claim because I think the winner here is going to be the highest SA team in the URC. So if the Bulls win, it'll be very difficult, but I think they can still maybe sneak into fourth and host a quarterfinal, probably against the Stormers or the Lions. Then if the Stormers win, I think, yeah, I like the way I'm sort of seeing the numbers kind of fall in. I think there's only gonna be two of the four SA teams in the top eight. So one of the two, or like two of the teams have to fall out. And basically the winner here is the one that's able to just sort of sneak their foot into top four and host a quarterfinal. It'll probably be against the other South African team because all four South African teams, like I said, have most of their games in South Africa. They should be expecting to win four, maybe five of those six games. And yeah, that should put them in good stead to be in the top eight. But now it's, are you traveling to Glasgow, traveling to Dublin, or are you hosting and maybe you're hosting, an Edinburgh or a Connacht or a Cardiff or, those sort of teams.
Oh, I just all I think about is Dobbo each night going to sleep and then waking up like, oh my word, no, we are actually still in a fight for it. We've got to, yeah, I can't believe the Stormers are in this position. It's also quite interesting, like to go unbeaten and then lose three games and then almost start losing touch with the front runners. This league's
Mm,
pretty competitive at the moment,
yeah.
and there's a hell of a lot to play for. You can't afford to drop games, and I think that's the big thing that something that we thought that we were going to bring to this tournament was to make it like that you can't drop games. Like Leinster
Mm,
can't afford to lose games here and there. Now it turns out to be us. Like we're the ones that are on the end of it. Every game really matters, especially when you want to be competitive at the top of the table. Because I think first and foremost, the South African sides want to qualify for the Champions Cup. I think
yes.
from a financial point of view. What they do in the Champions Cup's a different conversation. Like qualifying for it, I think is the most important. With that comes knockout rugby in the URC and domestic competition. And we are pretty handy at knockout rugby. It's not like we're completely foreign to it. We're good enough to deliver a couple of upsets. Um, and yeah, nothing's better than forcing the Leinsters to fly to South Africa for a knockout game, just to upset
Yeah.
all the old farts that want the good old days, and for us to show Leinster, listen, we're here to compete.
Yeah. I think the main reason the Stormers are in a bit of a hole is that they have four bonus points from their games, and Glasgow and Leinster all have nine. So
Oh,
that's
wow.
so you almost another win behind just on the basis of that. Because they have the same number of wins as Leinster, but they're five
Yeah.
behind because of these bonus points. So yeah, I mean these
That's try
it's
bonus points all the way.
yeah. So
Now, do you remember? I can't even remember what year it was. My brain is saying 2012. Do you remember that year the Stormers would win games, but I think out of their whole Super Rugby season, I think they got one try bonus point.
I remember that, yeah.
It was like the biggest Achilles heel in their tournament that stopped them. It was the funniest thing. It was Tootsie actually was the coach, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
It was that
Um,
Jean de Villiers, Jacques Fourie, and Juan de Jong all playing at the same time because they put like de Jong on the wing sometimes and whatever the case was.
yeah, we could Stormers could do anything that just couldn't get the fourth try. And back then it was just score four tries and you get your BP. You don't need to
Mm,
score three more than anyone. And now
yeah.
this is well, we might have to do some research and start creating a narrative that isn't true and just make it grow. Like
Yeah.
Van der Fleer being South African.
Yeah, so yeah, this is a big weekend in the URC and sets up everything that happens after that. So, Sean, lots of rugby to look forward to. I mean, there's still even we have the Rugby Europe Cup as well on the Sunday. They have all four games on a Sunday. So if you are not rugbyed out after Saturday, you can literally watch Germany versus Netherlands, then Switzerland, Belgium, then Romania, Spain, then Georgia, Portugal for the final, all like consecutively on Sunday. Yeah, Georgia, Portugal is the final. Probably Georgia's still the favorites to probably win, I think, what, their eighth or whatever in a row. But yeah, it's good that Portugal are kind of finding themselves and all that sort of stuff too. But yeah, there's a lot of rugby to look forward to there.
Yeah, it's going to be a great weekend. Saturday is going to be wild. I cannot
Yeah.
wait.
Yeah. So yeah, you know where to come after the games. On early in the week, we're gonna be reviewing the games, gonna reflect on who won the Six Nations. We're gonna talk SA Derby as well. So thank you for joining us in this Rugby Bits podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on our social media channels, and we'll see you again next week. Bye bye, everyone.
Bye.